Now, in order for us to migrate, this is another sort of lesson here. I've got another project open, which is called Cinematic Tutorial, and this is where I've got my assets, all of them really. And I'm going to, this is the folder that I want, and I'm just showing you a very basic sort of way. So if you go into another project in Unreal Engine and you right click any of the assets or folders, you can right click and then you choose the migrate option. And this allows you to actually move these assets. So it's going to tell me what assets I'm moving. I'm going to press OK, and then I'm going to go in the folder where I want to move them. So this is the project that we're working in. And you have to be sure you're in the content folder right here. When you are, select the folder, and then you'll see, sometimes it will be like, well, this actually exists in there as well. You want to overwrite it. And I could say, no, I don't want to overwrite the main map. There's no point. And no, I don't want to overwrite. So there's some stuff in there, like, the map that has the same name. Do you want to override it or not? So in this particular case, I don't. And the asset migration can take up to, can take longer or shorter, depending on how many assets you're actually moving at the same time. But once you get them moved, they're effectively usable in your other project, just the way they were usable in this project that you're migrating them from. And once the migration is complete, there's another thing in here that I want to get. Which is some sort of like render settings that I normally use for my assets. And that's going to be important for you to, for later on in the course to use as well to get the maximum quality of your assets. I'm just going to skip this sort of migration, because it's taking a bit too long. Okay, now that the folder has been moved, now I can actually do the same thing for this pipeline. So again, right click this is the render settings that I want. So I'm going to right click, and I have in asset actions. Whenever you do it as an asset level, not folder, you're going to have to go into asset actions, select migrate, press OK, and then I'm doing it in the same folder, and that's done. So that's pretty much, I've moved everything that I wanted over there. Now it's time for us to have a look at the other sort of assets. So let me just get the content browsers out of the way. And the other asset that I've got in here is an alter, which is basically a scanned object that we can find on Sketchfab. And then in here, again, this has got UDIMs as well. Generally, most of the assets that are scanned assets will be using a UDIM workflow. But in my particular case, I've actually taken this as a form of a base, and I created my own asset, and then I've textured it again and so on. But for this intended purposes, if you want to use this specific asset, go ahead. If not, as I said, in the project files, you'll find the one that I've made for this, right? But this is so cool because you can go on Sketchfab and search for so many of these things, and you're able to pepper your scenes with so many different assets. So you can select like tempo, then click the downloadable button, and then in here you can find so many different things. Some of them obviously cost money, some of them are for free. Just look at the sort of like the what type of license they've got, and then start using them as you see fit in your projects. Okay, and now the next bit that I normally do is we go for mega scans, which is one of the main reasons why people have started using Unreal Engine as opposed to any other game engine like Unity and so on, because mega scans are an incredible tool for you to use in your projects, and they're very highly realistic. So let's have a look at how we do that. So the first thing is you want to access your Quixel bridge. So in Unreal Engine 5.3, and I think any version after 5, if you go up here, you've got an option called Quixel Bridge. And if you press it, this will open your Quixel Bridge. Now in here, I believe if you don't have it, you can go in here and plugins, and just make sure bridge is selected. Normally it should be on by default, but just check. Once that's done, you've got to make sure that you are logged in. So I'm actually logged in, but if not, just log in with your Epic account, okay? And you're gonna have an Epic account because you will have a, well, you're on Unreal Engine, so you must have an Epic account. Anyway, and when you're in here, you can start downloading assets. Now, I do already have some assets downloaded for this particularly, and they are now locally added because that's what it says, local 15. So 15 mega scans have been added. But some of the things that I've searched for is an old candle, some decorative metal urn, some pillars. So, if you start searching in here, Roman stone floor, old candle, Roman trim, cobblestone, Roman arch, all these things, I've got them downloaded so I could use them in this particular project, depending on what, how the scene was going to play out or pan out and so on. And I'm going to show you just how to get an asset and what sort of level of quality you should be getting. So let's say we're on the home page and we want to get some floors. So we're going to say rock floor as an example. And then you're going to get like textures. These are textures, but then you'll also be able to find meshes in here. Now, up here, you do have 3D assets. So if you click that, it will give you a breakdown of those. Now, we don't really seem to have a lot of rock floors in here. So let me just type in maybe floor and then look for 3D assets. And yeah, that's probably better. And you can see that we will be able to find various different sort of assets. Honestly, there's so many in here, like there's so many assets to search for. So let's say Japanese bark stone embankment. Now this is something that you could use. And you can see in here, it's got some options where you can download the quality level. And normally you want to go for nanite, which will automatically get you the highest possible material level and also the mesh itself to be nanite. So that means that it's the highest poly as well. Once you select the quality, the nanite, you can then press download or, not or, sorry. There's some other options in here as well. Like for example, you could have a look at changing some of this stuff in terms of the materials. So this is to do with the fact that you may have already some mega scans that you've changed. Maybe you've got different sort of surfaces that you want to put on. But if not, just leave that as a default. And then once you press the download button here, which I'm getting the nanite level, you'll see a sort of a status. Once that finishes, don't go around thinking that your meshes are now added into your project, because they're not, even if it's downloaded. This just means that it's now added to your local drive. So at that point, then you can click this add button to add it to your current project. So once it finishes downloading, you can see that the add button has now become available. I believe in here, you can click go to files to actually open the folder that contains this. So it will generally be a Megascan library, and you're not really going to be able to tell where this is in here, because this is how Unreal Engine sort of stores these things, which is a bit not great. But anyway, yeah, they're in here. They're as UAsset files, so you can't just take this and use it in a different DCC if you like. These are specifically Unreal Engine files. Then we're going to click the Add button, which will now pretty much create a structure inside our current project, and you can see that happening right now. It's going to create a folder where the assets is going to go and the textures and so on. Now I'm also let me just let's just wait for this to finish. We'll get the Quixel bridge out of the way for a second, and then if we control space for the content browser and go to content, let's just wait for this autosave to happen as well. Just kind of a bit of an annoying feature that it's on by default, but Anyway, so we go in content, and you see that this is the cinema. These are the migrations that I did earlier from the previous project. This is a folder that you're always going to have when you open a new project. This is the Megascan folder where the assets are, and this is the Megascan presets. This is where sort of like some default materials and so on have been loaded up to make the Megascan work. This is the render settings that we migrated earlier as well. Now, in your particular case, you're going to go in Megascans, 3D assets, and then somewhere in here, you're going to find your assets. Now, very interestingly, all of the assets have now been added from the Megascans, which is a bit odd because I didn't say to it to do that. But yeah, that was interesting. So it seems that all of these, that's why they've got the tick box as well, by the way. They've all have been added by the looks of it. I'm not sure why that happened. Normally shouldn't, but yeah, everything has been added already in here for me. And I will be able to sort of, go in here and start using them. Just look, this is the Japanese Park Stone Embankment. So actually, if we drag it into the scene, you'll be able to notice it there. And that's the asset that we just got, and it looks quite nice. It's got a lot of geometry in it as well. That's pretty cool. But now it's time, that's all about assets. We pretty much have everything that we need to work on this scene. Doesn't mean that we're going to use all of these, but we're definitely going to use some of them. And yeah, let's move on to the next stage of the process.